Hello again, it's Mike the librarian. So I thought now that the discussion forums are done and week 8's over, it'd be good to do a little bit of wrap up because I can't visit the class in person for an online course. So it's going to take the form of 2 videos that should each hopefully be between 5 and 7 minutes. In this one, I'm going to discuss some general observations I have about people doing research, help with this assignment. And then in the second, I'll hope to address some individual things that people mentioned as problems they have doing research. So let's get started. So as I said, some observations about general research processes. Why am I doing this? In part because in the College of Arts and Sciences sections, it's really hard to give specific focused advice because different people's discourse communities are all over the map. So my experience as a librarian has been that there are a number of things that many researchers share in common and struggle with. Here's the first. People struggle with their scope, the scope of their research. So a real good help to that is to maintain a laser focus on what your purpose is. Why are you doing what you're doing? In the discourse community of academic librarians, the way to think about that is, what's your information need? So that is, what is it that you're trying to learn? You could make a literal list. We're going to look at a list in a second. The next observation is that lots of people spend a lot of time looking, but they don't spend as much time analyzing the sources they find as perhaps they should. And so in the terminology of the assignment you're working on right now, that is credible and appropriate for your audience and purpose. Well, what does that mean? We can talk about that too. So, speaking of the assignment though, let's take a look. So if I look over here at the assignment, I am looking at the current assignment, I've highlighted part here, the information you want to include. In a sense, this is part of the list of information needs you could think of, right? You're looking to include an overview of the discipline that provides background and context, textual evidence of how the community defines itself, which could include values, goals, expectations, right? As you do that, you're doing so by combining the primary source of the interview with secondary sources you find elsewhere. So this is not an exhaustive list of all the needs that you could have, but it's some, and it gives you an idea of where to start. You could make a much more detailed list that's a little bit more customized to you and what you're doing. So where would you find those things, though? I have a couple thoughts. So here's one example. I went to the American Library Association, a big professional organization, and I found a values statement. So this is outside the library, doesn't involve the library. I think you might want to do both in and out of the library research for this. Next, I found through a totally different organization, a major publication that academic librarians read, College and Research Library News. Now, how would I know that they read that if I didn't know already? Hold on a minute, we'll come back to that. Last but not least, there are lots of individual databases. This was mentioned in the lessons for week 8, but you could go and look at the University of Baltimore's list of databases. I've highlighted one that starts with L, Lista, that is library kinds of information, information about library sciences. You have to have a master's degree to be a librarian in library science. So qualifications, another way that the discourse community defines itself. So what if you don't know this stuff, though? Well, that gets to the idea of what is credible and appropriate for your audience and purpose. If you don't know, one thing to do is check around. Or you could ask in different kinds of ways. So use your interview to help you with this. So you might want to look at the different values at different professional organizations. And then another option is that you could talk to someone. So if you didn't know what kinds of publications were important, ask your interviewee, and that might really help. So if you add that together, check things out, make the sources work together. Look at custom databases. This can make sure that you don't forget about what your information needs are. Altogether, that can help you do some of the research for this particular project. And in the next video, we'll talk about maybe some specific problems that people highlighted on the discussion forum and what we could do about them.